Welcome to the Compact Murder podcast from compactmurder.com, the show where we explore murders, murderers, serial killers, and assassinations. This is episode 44, The Assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. It was just after midnight on the 5th of June 1968, and the ballroom of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles was alive with celebration. Senator Robert F. Kennedy had just won the California Democratic primary, a key victory in his bid for the presidency of the United States. The crowd chanted his name, photographers jostled for position, and Kennedy stood on the stage smiling, thanking his supporters. He ended his short speech with a promise. Now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there. The plan was for Kennedy to leave the stage and make his way through the hotel kitchen pantry, where he could greet hotel workers and head toward the press area. It was supposed to be a quick, informal route. Instead, within minutes, it became the site of his assassination. Robert Francis Kennedy was born on the 20th of November, 1925, the seventh of 9 children in one of America's most famous political families. His older brother John would become the 35th president, and Robert, as Attorney General from 1961 to 1964, was one of his most trusted advisers. He was at the center of some of the decade's most critical moments, from the Cuban Missile Crisis to the fight for civil rights. He sent federal marshals to protect the Freedom Riders, pushed to desegregate Southern universities, and took on organized crime. After John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963, Robert stayed in public life. In 1964, he was elected senator for New York. Over the next few years, he became a voice for people experiencing poverty, for racial justice, and for an end to the Vietnam War. By 1968, the country was in turmoil. Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated just 2 months earlier. The Vietnam War was dividing the nation. Kennedy's campaign offered a message of unity and compassion that resonated across racial and economic lines. California was critical to Kennedy's campaign. Winning the state would give him momentum over his rivals, Vice President Hubert Humphrey, who had the party establishment behind him, and Senator Eugene McCarthy, who was popular with anti-war activists. On the night of the 4th of June, Kennedy watched the results come in from a suite at the Ambassador Hotel. When the networks declared him the winner, he went downstairs to greet the cheering crowd. The ballroom was packed with campaign workers, journalists, and supporters. After his victory speech, Kennedy stepped off the stage and into a narrow passage leading to the pantry. The space was crowded with hotel staff, aides, and reporters. As he moved forward, shaking hands, a young man stepped out from the crowd. He was carrying a .22 caliber revolver. The man raised the gun and fired. The first bullet struck Kennedy behind the right ear. 2 more hit him in the back and shoulder. Several other shots were fired in the chaos, injuring 5 bystanders. People screamed and others rushed the gunman. Kennedy collapsed to the floor. His friend and aide, Paul Schrade, who had also been shot, remembered Kennedy looking up and asking, "Is everybody okay?" Moments later, Kennedy lost consciousness. The shooter was identified as Sirhan Sirhan, a 24-year-old Palestinian immigrant living in California. As he was pinned to the ground, hotel workers wrested the gun from his hand. Witnesses said Sirhan appeared calm, even as the crowd around him shouted in anger. Kennedy was rushed to Good Samaritan Hospital. Surgeons operated for hours to remove the bullet lodged at the base of his brain. But the injury was catastrophic. At 1:44 a.m. on the 6th of June 1968, some 26 hours after the shooting, Robert F. Kennedy was pronounced dead. He was 42 years old. News of his death stunned the nation. For many, it was an unbearable echo of 1963, when John F. Kennedy had been assassinated in Dallas. In cities across America, vigils were held. Flags flew at half-mast. Kennedy's body was flown to New York, where it lay in repose at St. Patrick's Cathedral. From there, it travelled by train to Washington, D.C., for burial at Arlington National Cemetery, close to his brother's grave. Thousands lined the tracks to pay their respects as the train passed. Sirhan Sirhan was born in Jerusalem in 1944 and came to the United States with his family in the 1950s. He had become a US citizen and worked a variety of jobs while living in Pasadena. In his diary, later recovered by police, he wrote of his anger toward Kennedy's support for Israel, particularly his pledge to sell fighter jets to the country. The assassination came a year after the Six-Day War, a conflict that had reshaped Middle Eastern politics and inflamed tensions worldwide. Sirhan admitted to shooting Kennedy, but claimed he had no memory of doing so. In 1969, he was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. When California abolished the death penalty in 1972, his sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. He has been denied parole many times, though he still maintains that he acted alone, but cannot recall the shooting itself. The official investigation concluded that Sirhan was solely responsible. But over the years, questions have persisted. Some witnesses said they heard more shots than the 8 bullets his revolver could hold. Others claimed Kennedy's fatal wound came from a closer angle than Sirhan's position allowed. These inconsistencies have led to theories of a second gunman or a wider conspiracy. None of these theories has been conclusively proven, but they continue to fuel debate among historians and assassination researchers. The impact of Kennedy's death on American politics was immediate. Without him, the Democratic nomination went to Hubert Humphrey, who lost narrowly to Richard Nixon in the general election. Many believe that Kennedy's ability to connect with a broad coalition of working-class whites, African Americans, Latinos, and young people could have changed the course of the election. Culturally, the assassination left an indelible mark. The image of Kennedy lying on the pantry floor with 17-year-old busboy Juan Romero cradling his head became one of the most enduring photographs of the era. Romero later spoke of how Kennedy tried to reassure him in those final moments, telling him, "Everything's going to be okay." That photograph, with its mix of shock, grief, and intimacy, became a symbol of a nation's loss. Robert F. Kennedy's funeral train journey from New York to Washington was a moment of collective mourning. People stood silently along the tracks, waving flags, holding up signs and saluting as the train passed. His grave at Arlington is marked by a simple white cross and a stone inscribed with his name and dates. Kennedy's speeches still resonate today. His words in Indianapolis on the night of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, when he spoke of compassion and understanding instead of hatred and division, are remembered as an example of moral leadership in a moment of crisis. For many, his assassination was not only the loss of a man, but the loss of what he represented, the possibility of bridging divides in a deeply fractured nation. Today, his legacy is kept alive in schools, memorials, and public service initiatives that bear his name. The assassination remains one of the most significant political killings of the 20th century, a turning point when America lost another voice for unity, justice, and hope. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Compact Murder Podcast from compacthistories.com. If you did, why not leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts? And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you would like to support us more directly, please consider buying us a coffee. Head on over to compacthistories.com/murdercoffee to see how. Also, please check out our other Compact podcasts. You will find them all at compacthistories.com. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.